I'm approximately like 15 years late to this party. When was this published? 2012. 13 years late. This book was so good. I was like, honestly was not expecting it to be this good. I know it had like tons and tons of hype, but a long time ago, I started like maybe chapter 1 and felt like, it has a very 2010 dystopian setup, which is to be expected. That's what this is. And having been reading more adult books in the past couple years, like I've been more into adult fantasy than YA, I kind of expected this to feel a little young. And obviously the characters are young, but I was absolutely just so impressed by this and the characters and how real they feel and how they're forced to sort of display this sense of maturity because they had their childhoods taken from them. I know the movie is out. I think it's on Netflix, and I've almost watched it. There were times where I thought I just wasn't gonna ever get around to this and I just wanted to watch the movie, but I'm so glad I held off. If you've seen the movie, let me know if it's good and like where it ranks in relation to the books. If you don't know what The Darkest Minds is, I believe this is a trilogy. But this story follows our main character, Ruby, who is a 16-year-old girl in like not the distant future, but still dystopian future. And there's this disease that all kids get, and they either die from it or they end up developing superpowers. Those abilities are classified into different colors, and I don't think it actually explicitly says it, but it's sort of grouped by how dangerous they would be to other people. So you have greens, blues, yellows, oranges, and reds. Greens are good at like figuring things out. They're very puzzly. Blues can move things with their mind. Yellows can control electricity. Oranges can do, it depends on the person. Like there is some variance within the powers, but generally speaking, oranges can do different forms of mind control or suggestion, and then reds control fire. Interesting how we didn't meet a red in this book. Our main character, Ruby, ends up developing powers, and she is an orange, but when she gets put into these camps that are considered rehab camps, but they're really just terrible places that they corral the children because they're scared of their powers, she pretends to be a green to slip under the radar. That's when she's like 12, I think, and then by the time we catch up with her, she's been living in this camp for years. This has a classic YA love triangle that I did not see coming. I should have expected it, but I went into this book truly knowing like nothing other than the trailer for the movie that I saw years ago. So I was so pleasantly surprised the whole way through, and now I'm just so heartbroken and I need to read the other books. So when I read a physical copy, like I read this book with my eyes, not even with my ears like normal, and when I go through and do that, I'll just like often dog ear a page that I have stuff that I want to talk about in the review. I don't know if you can see, it's like every single page has a dog ear on it, to the point that I had to go and type up notes so that I would not need to film for like 5 hours to get through everything. It's good when those dog ears are also on the bottom of the pages because I've already used the top page for the other side. That said, we have a lot to talk about. If you have not read The Darkest Minds, I really do recommend it, though be forewarned, because when I went into this, a lot of dystopian YA, it has honestly kind of disturbing themes at times. It can be pretty violent. The Hunger Games immediately comes to mind, and like maybe the first Red Rising book, stuff like that. Maybe it's just because I'm a little, used to the Hunger Games. I know the story so well, I read it so long ago, that maybe it doesn't faze me the same way it did. But reading this, I was just heartbroken for these kids. So keep that in mind. You're gonna go into it. It's very emotionally involved. And there's a lot of stuff that happens where I was like, I can't believe they're having to persevere through this level of tragedy and pain. On that note, goodbye if you haven't read the book, because we got to get into it. All right, so we start the book off with this warning that to look out for kids who are displaying symptoms of IAN, which is idiopathic adolescent acute neurodegeneration. No wonder they shortened it. And then they list off the symptoms, and it's like stuff that, you don't want your kid to be displaying, but normal symptoms. Nausea, like maybe a little violent, feeling very emotional. And then the last one's like, oh, and also if they have like random, inexplicable abilities. The kids who get it either die or they develop these psi powers. Is that how you say it? PSI. Honestly, I didn't look it up, but I kind of assume that this is a psi. And there's just no way to predict which one your kid is gonna be. It really is so scary. And when we start off the book, we have Ruby on a bus to one of these camps that they've put together for the Psi youth. We don't know quite how she got rounded up. It's absolutely heartbreaking. We'll get to it later. But this is the first time when she gets off the bus, she only has like an inkling of what she can do, but this is the first time she really meets another orange kid and sees them using their powers deliberately. This little boy, they get off the bus and he makes one of the guards turn her gun on herself. It's like the first scene right out the gate, super freaking dark. And at this point, she alludes to having done something to end up in this camp. And she knows that she's an orange, but now that she's seen what this orange kid can do, she's like, you know what? I should probably fly under the radar as much as I possibly can. And so she manages to go through, like, they put them through this test to see which color they need to be separated in. And she manages to convince her tester that she's a green. And then she lives for years under this pretense that she's a green. She has a friend named Sam. I honestly thought we were going to see a lot more of Sam. She has to show up in the later books. But Sam is a little more sassy. She's got a little more fire to her than Ruby does. And she stands up for Ruby a lot. And at one point, it reaches this breaking point where Sam stands up for her. She's about to go get punished for it. And she's looking back at Ruby like, help me, or, you know, be in this with me. Ruby says that every time stuff like this happens, she has to shy away because she can't fly under the radar if she's getting in trouble at the rate that Sam is. When Sam comes back and she's like not doing well because they like punish them very harshly, Ruby reaches out for her and touches her, and she gets all of these memories that Sam has. So she's like a memory reader, but then Sam is like, are you new here? And she's accidentally erased herself from Sam's mind. Now we find out later that that's what she did to her parents, and it's so upsetting. Especially at this point in the book, the way it was set up was really, really well done. Like, we don't realize that that's what's happened. When I'm reading it the first time through and I'm not really understanding all that happened in Ruby's past, you think, oh, Sam is basically giving her the silent treatment, but worse. She's acting like she doesn't even know this girl who theoretically 5 minutes ago was her best friend. We end up in the infirmary, and a doctor leaves a note with Ruby, and she's like, they've already removed all the yellow, oranges, and reds from the camp, but they're trying to make another comb through to see if anybody slipped through, and I know that you're an orange, so like, you want to get out of here, take these pills, I'll smuggle you out. They're creating this special white noise, which is like basically a really painful dog whistle for kids with abilities. And she's like, they will kill you once they perfect this white noise, and they can specifically target oranges, and you're the only one who's going to react to it. So she takes these pills. She ends up having a fake seizure and goes back to the infirmary, which is where Dr. Begbie is. She ends up pulling Ruby into a room to switch into clothes for a nurse's outfit so that she can smuggle her out of Camp Thurman. And then she kind of introduces herself. She's like, I'm actually Kate, and the government has been lying. They say there's like a certain amount of kids left in the country, but there's actually like a 10th of that. Like, so many kids have died off, or they've been killed because they're red, oranges, and yellows. And then Kate calls her brave, and Ruby, she's really, self-deprecating isn't the word, but that's like kind of the vibe, where she doesn't really think super highly of herself. And I think, you know, part of that is going to stem from this really traumatic break that she had from her family. But Ruby's like, I'm not brave, I'm not like the other yellow, orange, and red kids, because she saw them and she was like, they had such a fire to them that they would use their powers against the adults. And she even notes that like most of them don't make it to 16 because by that point they've been presumably killed. We pick up Martin, who's also in Camp Thurman. He's also an orange, and he is gross. He talks about how he can stir up people's emotions to get them to do what he wants them to do. So that's like his version of the mind control power, is being able to tap into people's emotions. I was getting confused at this point because we're stuck in the back of a car with him, and I'm like, is this our love interest? Because like, no thank you. I didn't like him. I was trying to figure out, is it going to be endearing later once he like cleans up and he's nice to her and stuff like that? But the whole ride there, I was like, this guy isn't nice. And then we meet up with Kate's boyfriend Rob, who is also part of the Children's League. Like, they're theoretically supposed to be helping the kids out. That doesn't fully seem to be the case. And then Ruby touches Rob to like get some of his memories, and she sees that he just recently, like the blood is still on him, killed 2 kids from a different camp, and then he lies about it. He's like, I couldn't get them out. And she's like, but you did, but you killed them, and why? And Ruby thinks that Kate knows what Rob did, and there's a really good chance that she does, because it seems like they would kill kids who aren't going to join the Children's League. Like, they don't want them to just wandering around with those powers, and so they would do something like that. And she's like, as much as I like Kate, there she is kissing Rob, knowing what he's done. And so the Children's League can't really be that great, right? So she plans that she's going to try to escape. And at first she's like, I'm going to try and get Martin, you know, like, he sucks. But you also don't want the kid dead, you know what I mean? But at that point, he's really antagonistic towards her. And she kind of sees her opportunity where she sees this little girl outside the back of this gas station that they've stopped by, running back towards a van. And Ruby's like, I don't know where she's going, but she's going away from here, and so I'm gonna follow. This is when she meets Zoo, the little girl. She's a yellow, and then also Liam and Chubs, both blues. Chubs definitely wants to dump her on the side of the road. He's like, we can't risk another liability. We can't risk having another person that people are actively looking for. I don't agree with that idea, but also at the same time, he's kind of right, because they take off and they start getting chased. Ruby knows that this is partially her fault. It seems like there was another car chasing them as well, I think, but obviously Kate and Rob are coming after her. And so she's like, let me out and I'll self-sacrifice. And Chubs is down for that, but Liam doesn't let her do it. And then he has Ruby drive, and she's like, why can't Chubs? Like, I'm very new to this minivan situation. And then he says he can barely see 5 feet in front of him. Trust me, you don't want him to drive, darling. And I was like, yep, this is our love interest. Liam ends up using his powers to throw a tree in front of the cars and stuff like that. So that's like the blue power that he has, is this ability to move things. I don't know if we ever saw Chubs use his power. I don't know. I really love the family dynamic. It is this is like a true found family trope, and it was very, very cute. But Liam and Chubs are arguing because they're talking about how, you know, there's high-speed chase going on back there, and Chubs asks Liam if he knows what it looks like when a body gets thrown from a car, and he says, no, but I imagine it's not pretty or appropriate for an 11-year-old's ears. The 11-year-old is Zoo, and I thought that was so cute. Liam is like, he's such an older brother. It's so clear that that's his role in this little found family that they have. I thought it was so funny. They're taking the trackers out of Ruby's clothes because the Children's League will put trackers in everything. And he says, go grab Chubbs' little fancy lady kit, which is an embroidery kit. It was really funny. I just thought it was hilarious. Like, Chubbs, I kind of related to the kid, I'm not gonna lie. They get rid of the trackers and they start interrogating Ruby, and they're talking about Camp Thurman, and she tells them that there were 3,000 kids. And Liam and Chubbs are just like, what on earth? The camp that they came from had like maybe 300. They ask how old she is, and she says that she doesn't know, and then like, what year is it? It quickly goes from them acting like this is a joke, right, to them realizing that this girl actually doesn't know how old she is because she's been in the camp for so long. And she thinks she's 16 or 17. They tell her what year it is. She's 16. And they really pity her, which so did I. And she doesn't want their pity. Like, I do get it. She doesn't want them to feel bad for her. She doesn't necessarily want them to keep her around because they're feeling charitable. She doesn't like having that type of emotion. But when Chubbs tries to ask her more questions, Liam like immediately shuts it down. I do like that they call her green, because obviously she's still going under her cover that she's a green. She's worried that if they find out that she's an orange, that they're gonna want to dump her on the side of the road. And I was like, I mean, I get it. Oranges are dangerous, but I don't know. In my mind, I sort of saw that as more of an asset to them as a group as opposed to a threat. But I loved Liam. When she's talking to him and he asks what her last name is, and she says she doesn't have one, he doesn't push for it. And when he asks where she's from, she won't tell him, and he doesn't push for it because he just knows that she's not ready for those things. Knowing what we know now and the fact that her family has forgotten her, like, no wonder she says she doesn't have a last name. Like, she doesn't even have a family at this point, except for maybe her grandmother, who we didn't end up finding in this book, by the way. But the thing is that greens are supposed to be good at puzzles. They're supposed to have photographic memories. Like, they're really, really smart. Our little found family has a code that they've been trying to figure out, and they're like, oh, let's just give it to you. You should be able to figure it out, right? And Ruby's like, no. This is also when Chubbs asks her about the car that was chasing them, and he mentions the car being, I think, black, and then Ruby doesn't say anything because she kind of doesn't remember. And then when Chubbs, after that conversation, he's like, by the way, that car was gold. Some photographic memory you've got there. Like, he's kind of onto her. It's clear that Ruby is omitting information, but this is the first time where Chubbs is like, I think you're lying. Like, he doesn't say it out loud, but it's clear that that's what he's been thinking. There's multiple times that we run into skip tracers and PSFs and stuff like that throughout the book, and this next like set of car chase situations that we have, Zoo is sort of the one that takes care of it with the car and like the electricity and stuff, and it ends up killing the driver. And then Ruby kind of saves the day because Chubbs and Liam at some point in this interaction get knocked out, and Ruby ends up using her powers to tell the driver to like go sit in the forest forever or something like that. And when she comes back, she doesn't tell Zoo that her powers killed someone. And it's essentially to spare her. Like, this entire book, Zoo does not speak. She talks by writing to people, but she doesn't talk at all. We know that she's already come from a really traumatic situation in the camp, so Ruby's trying to sort of protect her, and that's something that I love that all three of them do. Like, they really do try to protect this girl. Liam and Chubbs are knocked out. Ruby's like, okay, I'm gonna drive, even though she's like fully scratched up, very, very injured. Chubbs ends up actually having to stitch her up later, and that's sort of when I feel like he starts to develop like a soft spot for her. And we also have this conversation where we realize that Ruby isn't the reason they got tracked down that time. They think it is Lady Jane, who is like, I think she's a skip tracer, but she has been specifically tracking down Liam this whole time. And that's when Chubbs is like, oh no, maybe they wouldn't come after me. They might not come after Zoo, but they would come after Liam, because who do you think was the mastermind of our camp's breakout? Because that's how they ended up getting out of their camp, was this massive uprising of the children against the guards, and a really small fraction of them got out. At this point, Ruby goes through her backpack. It's the one that she still has from the Children's League, and then she realizes that she has one of those panic buttons. She thought she threw away her last one, the necklace one that Kate gave her, but there was one more in the backpack, and she wants to leave it behind, but she doesn't. And I was like, this is one of those loaded gun situations where, like, if you read that there's a gun in the room, it has to go off. It's like a rule of writing. I was like, if you have the button, it must be pressed. And she doesn't throw it away because it is her only connection to Kate. And she does want this woman's help. I really liked that Ruby, even though she's so independent and stuff like that, she still wants to find an adult in her life that she can trust. They end up stopping at this motel, and that night is when Ruby accidentally goes into Zoo's dream, and this is how we kind of get the backstory of what happened at Liam, Zoo, and Chubs' camp. Their breakout was extremely chaotic and scary and upsetting. She was separated from, obviously, like, in this nightmare situation. We don't get a full description. It's clear it's somebody in Zoo's family. It ends up being her cousin. I thought it was her sister at first. And then Zoo wakes up from this nightmare, and Liam is, like, sitting there comforting her, and he's so sweet. He is such an older brother, just made for the job. He gets up the next morning, and he's siphoning gas out of one car to put into their van. They have a really cute conversation about music, and I absolutely loved it. And Liam starts singing because they were talking about this one famous guy singer. And Ruby's like, no, I like it when he sings it, not you. Also, earlier, I forgot, they went to this RV park, and while they were there, Zoo ended up taking a dress from one of the RVs and left it for Ruby. It was so cute. And Ruby ends up wearing it. She's like, not really a dress person, but I feel like this would really mean something to Zoo if I wore this. It's so cute. The more we talk to Liam and Chubs, the more we realize no one's coming to help us. We obviously don't like the camps. They're advertised as rehabilitation camps for the kids, where they will theoretically get rid of these powers, but that's never happened. And we don't really like the Children's League for sort of unknown reasons still, but we've also seen the memories of Rob and him killing those kids, so we know that they're not good people. And then there's also this federal coalition thing that we don't really dive into, but we also kind of don't need to, I guess, because Chubbs is like, yeah, it's like a thing, but he's talking to Ruby and he's like, the country has bigger problems than just dealing with the kids with superpowers, apparently, because everything's falling apart. And so Ruby asks, who do we count on? Who do we like? And Liam is like, we like us, and that's about it. They stop at Waffle House because Liam has to go in to get food. He's the only one who can really pass as an adult. They have a Cracker Barrel and a Waffle House nearby. And Liam's just so funny and sarcastic. Thank goodness. I don't know how we would have chosen between these two fine culinary establishments. We also, oh my gosh. Okay, so we find Zoo, and she's doing math problems in this notebook, and Liam made up the math problems for her so that she can continue learning like she's at school. And it's so cute because Zoo wants to go back to school. She wants, eventually when all of this is theoretically over, she wants to go back to her normal life. And Liam is trying to encourage that line of thought by preparing her to go back to school when it happens. There's this talk of the slip kid. He's like the children's leader that everybody wants to get to because he can help you find your parents. He can give you a home, because a lot of these kids, when they manage to get out of camps or they manage to evade capture and stuff like that, they don't really know where to go. A lot of them, like, their parents don't want to keep them. They think their kid's crazy, like stuff like that. And so they're kind of trying to band together, and he's the main focus of where everybody can gather. However, we don't know where he is, and the location is very much a secret because we can't have all these adults finding out where the slip kid is. All we have is this code EDO, and that's the code that they were trying to get her to figure out, because they're like, you're a green, maybe you can figure this one out. And Ruby is like, I will do my absolute best as an orange, just gonna try to problem solve right now. And she thinks that it might be an area code. And so they're heading toward Virginia, which is also where Ruby is from, even though she won't tell them that, but she does kind of slip up. She talks about locations and stuff. And Liam's like, sure, anybody from not that area would know that. They pass JMU, and it's really sad because Liam really cares about these kids. And he like kind of jokes, but kind of real. He asks Chubs, do you want to stop and go smell the scholasticness? Because Chubs really wants to go to college. It's so sad, you guys. All these things in their future that they just really want so bad. They stop at a supermarket where Liam has kind of used as a hideout before, and they get attacked by other kids. And they get mad because Zoo fried their entire store. But we stick around for a little bit because we need shelter, basically. And we're talking in the back corner of the store. And we're talking about the slip kid, and the guys say that the slip kid is at the East River, which we kind of don't know where that is. And Liam even asks, he's like, why is he gathering all these kids? Like, what's going on? What's the end game? They're like, there is no end game. And they talk about him like he's this cult leader. Truly idolize this guy. But they say, we can't give you the location. You have to find it for yourself. these kids are so annoying. And so Ruby ends up taking Zoo around the store. They're like, I think they're in a Walmart. And it's just, oh my goodness. She's so little, you know? And Ruby ends up taking off her gloves and holding Zoo's hand. And then at one point, Zoo pulls out a toaster and puts her hands in there and like electrifies the thing. Kind of to show like, do you see what's possible if you touch me? And I mean, Ruby, better than anyone, knows that because she's terrified to touch any of these kids and accidentally make them forget her. So Ruby holds her hand anyway. Like she can sort of like, Ruby can feel it coming on if she's gonna accidentally take one of these powers. Like she can start to feel like a headache. They end up walking around the store and it is absolutely heartbreaking because Zoo sees this cute little dress and she really wants it, but she feels like she doesn't deserve it. Like it's very clear to Ruby that she feels like she can't have it, and so she has Zoo try it on and it's really cute and they have girl time and it's adorable. She finds pink rubber gloves because Zoo has been wearing these yellow ones this whole time, and she knows that Zoo is just like, she's a little girl, like she wants all the pink and sparkles and stuff like that. I was like tearing up reading this whole section. Liam ends up finding them and thanks Ruby for taking Zoo, and she's like, look, I'm sorry I threatened these guys, but they suck. And Liam's like, I didn't send you away because you threatened them. I sent you away because you were distracting them with your face. At this point, we kind of get the inkling that Liam likes her and thinks that she's very pretty. Like, we kind of got that from the beginning, but it just seems like Liam might be like a tiny bit of a flirt, but it's like in a sweet way. Chubs and Ruby stay up pretty much all night. They can't really sleep, and Chubs says that he knew how to sew up her wounds because his parents are doctors, and he really speaks of them in high regard, and it's clear that that's like what he wants the most is to find them. Ruby ends up finding this practice essay that Chubs wrote, and at first you think it's because he wants to go to college so bad, like he is acting like he is in a scholarly situation, but then he tells us the truth. He writes these book reviews, and his parents do it too, and they post online, and it's the first letter of every line, and it lines up to say whatever secret message they want to get across to each other, which is so sad. And then he tells Ruby that his real name is Charles, but they end up sticking with Chubs. Ruby figures out that EDO is 540 because like O can be a 0 and then 54 corresponds with the letter E and D, and so that's why we thought it was originally an area code. But she's like, you know, one other thing, because people have been talking about frequencies a lot, and those boys that they were talking to, no matter how horrible they were, they also mentioned like a frequency, and remember, we can do the thing with the white noise where only the kids can hear it. And so she's like, oh my gosh, it's a radio frequency. They go and they find a radio, they tune it to the correct station, and they hear, if you can hear this, you're one of us. If you're one of us, you can find us, Lake Prince, Virginia. Ruby wanted to go to Virginia anyway because that's where her grandmother is, probably. And it's so cute. They're just so excited and they're jumping up and down, and like Chubs obviously didn't really like Ruby from the start, and there's going to be some antagonistic feelings between the two of them, but now they're truly friends and they're really, really cute. And Chubs says, I could kiss you. Ruby says, please don't. And we need this moment of friendship because when we're in the car the next day, Ruby opens up Jack's letter and starts to read it, and Liam gets pissed. And it's because they promised. They had this other kid between Jack, Liam, and Chubs, and they're like, hey, if any of us don't get out, the other kids are going to deliver these letters to our parents that we have. And Liam gets really mad. It's just like, it's such a sore spot for him. He, to an extent, feels like Jack's death is his fault. And so Chubs is like, hey, lay off of her. She didn't know. And we end up taking a pit stop. Liam needs a minute. This is kind of the first time we really see any sort of true breakdown from him. And Chubs tells Ruby to follow him. She's like, why? And I'm like, because he loves you. Like, what are you talking about? She does. And Liam opens up a little bit and he's like, I want to find the slip kid because yes, we need to get this letter to Jack's dad. And he's like, but I already know where my family is. I could contact them if I want to. He says he's not ready yet. And then he tells her about feeling guilty about Jack's death, not to mention the dozens, potentially hundreds of other deaths that happened that night when they were escaping, because really only a small amount of people got out that night. Very charged moment between the two of them. Liam goes in to kiss her and she pulls away because she's having that headache feeling, and she's like, oh my gosh, if he touches me, I might accidentally take all of his memories and he's not going to remember me anymore. That's got to be so stressful. And in her effort to get away, she slips and Liam catches her, and there's like a moment where they touch and she sees a couple of his memories, but like not all the way, and it only erases like the last 2 minutes, and he doesn't remember, I guess, going in to kiss her or something like that, but he just thinks that she fell and he caught her. When we get back to the van, Lady Jane has caught up and she has Zoo and Chubs, and she's gonna get Liam, and Liam's like, hey, if you let them go, I will come with you. And Ruby's like, I have a choice. I can show my orange powers to these other kids or let Liam get taken. And so she chooses to show her orange powers. And this seems like the first time she really uses suggestion. She knows that oranges can do that, but she's never seemed to be able to do it herself, except for maybe when she was getting tested. We don't really know. because she told the tester when she was like a kid coming into the camp, she's like, I'm a green. And he just believed her at face value. But was she using suggestion at that point or not? The exertion of suggesting to Lady Jane that she leaves is so much effort that she ends up passing out, and we have like a sort of a daydream unconscious sequence where we find out exactly what happened with her parents, and it is heartbreaking. Like, they're fighting about her turning, I think it's 11. That's when you're most likely to start developing symptoms of Ian, and her parents are very anxious about that. And at some point she ends up touching them, I guess, and uses her powers to pull herself from their memories. And then the next morning when she walks downstairs and she's trying to talk to her mom, and her mom is like, why is there a child in my house? It's so sad. And I think this is where it kind of comes in that Ruby is worried that if the other kids know, that they're not going to want her either, because her parents didn't want her because they couldn't remember her. Liam very seriously looks into her eyes and says that he means him, would want her yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and it's very sweet, and that they'll help her understand her abilities. And I was like, oh, we're in love. Like, Liam's a smart cookie. He asks if that's why Ruby wants to go see the Slip Kid. He's like, I know there's rumors that the Slip Kid is in orange. Do you want him to help you understand your powers? So we move forward. We're looking for the Slip Kid. We end up running into some other kids who are on a raid, which, by the way, there's like tribes of children just like around the country, and we think we've run into one of them, but then one of the kids in this raid is like friends with Liam, and he's like, oh my gosh, Liam, do you want to come see the Slip Kid? They're like, yes, thank you very much, we would. And they say that the PSFs can't attack the Slip Kid because of who he is and what he can do. And I'm like, who is this kid? It's like Robin Hood and Peter Pan mixed together or something. And we get to this camp where the Slip Kid is, and it's like summer camp vibes. It's really giving like the Mount Olympus camp. And all the kids, they work together and they live together and they take care of one another. And it's like, it seems like this utopia. They all wear black because they don't differentiate by color. The little kiddos have a school. Zoo is over the moon about that. They go to see the Slip Kid. It's Clancy Gray. Not gonna lie, I should have seen this coming, but I didn't. I just sort of thought he wasn't around anymore. This is the president's son. He was the first member ever of Camp Thurman. And theoretically, he was the like test subject of getting rid of the powers and curing Ian. But the thing is that the cure didn't actually work. They were toting him around saying it did, but it didn't. He says he's been waiting for Ruby, and it's really creepy. He starts spouting off all these like facts about her, and she's like, stop. She gets really mad. On her way out, he pushes an image into her mind of him down on one knee with a rose saying, forgive me. And that's powerful. And she's like, he should not be able to do that. That is insane levels. When he did that, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Like, this is totally gonna be a love triangle. He's the exact opposite of everything that Liam is. Zoo finds her cousin. It's adorable, their little reunion. And then that night at the bonfire, Liam is dancing with Ruby. And at this point, listen, I know that I probably will swap teams if we are going this route. It's almost always the person they meet second. However, Liam is dancing with her at the bonfire. I love it. So cute. Clancy is watching them like a hawk. And he continues to watch for like the duration of her staying at this camp. We're talking to Clancy. And Ruby, back of her mind, is like, yeah, he's a lot shorter than Liam and Chubs, but like he is the most handsome guy I've ever seen. You know what this means. No. If you have not read Shatter Me, at least the first 3, I'm gonna need you to mute for a second. This is such an Aaron Warner / Adam / Juliet-esque love triangle if I've ever seen one. Clancy, the country's leader, a little short. Not to mention that the president tried to kill him, so he has a brutal dad, just like Aaron Warner. Well-dressed, well-kept, always in control. He wants to see how far she can take her powers as opposed to suppressing them in any way. And it's so exactly like Aaron Warner, because by the end of the book, we don't like Clancy. Like, he's pretty brutal, he's kind of crazy, but we think that about Warner too. She goes for a walk. She needs to get away. She finds this pier. Chubs is there. And it's so funny because yes, they are friends, but it's very much a sibling relationship. He's like, no, this is my secret hideout. No rubies allowed. Turns out Clancy has a laptop, like the only laptop in the entire place. And Chubs wants to use it so that he can post his book review and talk to his parents. And Clancy says that no, that's a security risk, and he's the only one allowed to touch the laptop, which is vibes that I don't love. Ruby takes Clancy up on his offer to do like orange training. She ends up in his mind and finds out that Clancy's dad almost killed him. He was going to have him killed because they were on this circuit of Clancy being like, yes, the camp worked and I don't have powers anymore and I feel great. And the reason they were doing this was because Clancy convinced everyone that it did work. When his dad found out it didn't, that's when he wanted to have him killed, because he's like, oh my gosh, I am the president of the entire country and my son has duped me with these weird mind powers. Like, scary. Here's the thing. He was influencing his dad. This teenager kid who's like a little unhinged had full control over the president. Like, do we see where this is going? Clancy says that the Reds are in Project Jamboree, which is his dad's project, which we later find out was Clancy's project. It's special army training because they can control fire. So you can see how that would be dangerous. I didn't love how in love everyone was with Clancy. They just absolutely adore him, and it's kind of weird. Like, it's giving cult leader. However, he's not all bad. Like, there were moments where it was like, yeah, she starts to like Clancy, especially when he's teaching the kids about the pilgrims. So cute. She and Clancy work together a lot. She's not seeing Liam during this time because he's on perimeter duty, and then she finally has it. I was waiting for this. She realizes that at any time she could accidentally take memories of herself from Liam, and that would destroy everything that they've built. That wouldn't happen with Clancy. Again, with the Shatter Me parallel, she drains Adam, but she fuels Warner. Like, her power, it transfers into Warner in a way that makes him stronger, but with Adam, for him to be with her, it's a constant fight. Though, we have a long road before I'm gonna be Team Clancy. They're having a hard time with this training though, and he's like, you know what, instead of going on offense, because you're not a really aggressive person, why don't you go on defense? Think about a memory or imagine something that you don't want other people to see. Clancy specifically says something that you want or someone you want. She thinks about Liam, obviously. But Clancy, it's so clear. Clancy wants her to be thinking about him. But because she's having this daydream and she's kissing Liam in this daydream, she ends up pushing Clancy out because she's like, I don't want you to see that. So we're like making progress. The person who's not making progress right now is Chubs. He absolutely hates camp. He's not bought into this at all. Ruby forgot to ask about the computer, that Chubs could use it. Can you imagine? I felt so bad. I know it's just like a slip. Like, Liam didn't think about how this would come across, but he makes a joke. They haven't seen each other in so long that he's like, oh, hi, I'm Liam. Nice to meet you. And Ruby's like, oh my gosh, I did it and I didn't even notice. And she like fully breaks down. It's so sad. She thinks she's erased herself already. And then Liam's like, I'm sorry, that was Liam Stewart for hi, darling, I missed you something fierce. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Zoo ends up leaving. Some of the kids, they want to go find their parents, and Zoo has her cousin now, and it's really sad because like she has this found family and they don't want her to leave, but at the same time they're like, who are we to hold you back from going to see your real family, you know? Liam is really distraught and overprotective, and it's really sad to watch Zoo leave. Zoo gives her a note and she's like, I have something I want to tell you, but I don't know how to say it, so can you come find me later? And Ruby says, of course I'm gonna come find you. So that's got to be a mission at some point later in the trilogy. Chubs and Liam have a fight. It's not about Zoo leaving, but it's clearly fueled by that. Both of them are so engulfed by grief right now. This really is like their younger sister, even though technically the fight is about how badly the breakout went when they got out of camp. When Clancy tries to get in her head, they're like having orange training. He like starts to suggest to her, it's really creepy, and he like almost forces her to kiss him. It's so like she's scared, like it's bad. It felt so icky, and this isn't the first time we see it, but it's the first time it's really made clear, if you didn't pick it up earlier, that Clancy has been putting his own suggestion into Ruby's mind like over a long period of time to suggest what he wants and to try and get her to like him and stuff like that, and making it sound like it's her own thoughts. Liam follows her, and this was just like honestly such a sad scene, but it also shows how well Liam understands her and understands people. So Clancy told Ruby, you can be with an orange or you can be with no one, basically. But like really emphasizes the no one. He's like, I don't know how to fix you. I don't know how to get you to stop pulling people's memories. It's weird. And so when she runs off and Liam follows, she tries to fight him away, but he says he's not going to leave. And I think he knows that it's something else. And this is when Ruby accidentally pushes that memory of what Clancy did into his mind. And he is raging. He tells her to pack. He's like, get Chubs, we're leaving. Clancy doesn't want that to happen. They're kind of low on numbers at the camp, and so he has to approve it when people leave, and he didn't barely approve Zoo's pack leaving, and obviously he's not about to lose his only other orange and just let them run away, and so the perimeter guard finds them. Clancy, this entire time, he's trying to implant thoughts into Ruby's mind, where it's like, was it really that bad? Like, do we really need to leave? Like, this is a bad idea. And this is when she realizes that he's doing that to everyone in the camp. That's why they all love him so much. That's why they all blindly follow him, is that he's been putting these thoughts in their heads constantly. Except for Chubs, which is quite interesting, and we don't really get an answer to that. Something's going on there. Liam gets beat up real bad. They end up staying at the camp. This girl comes in and she's telling Ruby, like, Clancy's hurt, you have to come help him. And she's freaking out. And because he's using full mind control and like putting images in her head too, which is just like really scary. And Ruby comes to find him. He's in like a full villain arc at this point, and he's not even trying to hide it from Ruby. People starting to show up. Apparently, Clancy leaked the location. He's like, time to pull the plug on this situation. And we realize that he's been the one controlling this red army that his father was creating. Ruby manages to escape. Chubs kind of manages to escape, and they hide out under the pier, and I'm freaking out this whole time because Liam's not there. Chubs says that Jack saved his life. That's why it's so important to him to get the letter to Jack's dad. We wait forever. Liam finally shows back up. Thank goodness. They go to deliver the letter, and Jack's dad shoots Chubs. Like, are you kidding me? I'm so far to deliver this letter. And apparently, like, Ruby opens the letter later and she realizes that all it was Jack saying to his dad how much of a monster he was for sending him to that camp. However, we have other things to deal with because Chubs is bleeding out. And so Ruby grabs the panic button that connects her to Kate and she starts pressing it like crazy, and the Children's League shows up. They take Chubs somewhere. Martin is there because of course he is, the orange that ended up staying with them from the beginning of the book. And Ruby, to show her newfound powers, because Clancy did train her pretty well, she steals all of Martin's memories, and she does it in front of Kate to kind of show what she can do, and she's using this as leverage. She says that, you know, if you let Chubs and Liam go, I will stay here. I will do what you want. I'll be part of this Children's League. Look at how powerful I am. And Kate takes her up on that. We try to read Chubs' letter. Turns out it's a blank page because he truly believed that he was going to get home to his parents. I don't think we actually for sure find out that he's still alive at the end of the book. Like, we're told he's somewhere else getting the help that he needs, but like, I'll believe it when I see it. You know what I mean? She goes in and she sees Liam, and Liam starts to tell her this story about how they would have met if all of the powers and stuff wasn't in it. Story about them meeting at the beach and how cute he thinks she is. And oh my gosh, it's so upsetting, you guys. And then Ruby's like, I'm gonna finish the story. Close your eyes. I was like, you're not doing this to me right now. Like, she erases herself from his memory. Are you kidding me? She knows Liam will not leave the Children's League if he remembers her. He won't leave her there by herself, and she has to do this for him, or she feels like she has to do this for him. Liam leaves. I put in all caps. I simply cannot. I knew this would happen, and I still can't believe it happened. Yeah, because I can't believe that it happened. And then my last note was, strangely enough, we have not met a Red yet. Yeah, I feel like Red's next. This was like a very stressful book, very upsetting ending. I did not expect to care this much. Anyway, I gotta read Never Fade now. I don't know when I'm gonna get to that, but I also do really want to see what happens. I'm really interested because I just feel like we're gonna end up with Clancy. I don't know how that's gonna happen, but Liam doesn't remember her anymore. It's really upsetting. Anyways, I only have a few minutes left on this camera, so we gotta wrap it up. Would love to know your favorite part. Mine was all the cute little found family moments. I think it's adorable. I also like seeing Ruby learn to use her powers. I think it's really interesting, and I want to see her actually use them in the next book with purpose and a little bit of spite. I also just I want to find out what is up with Chubs that he doesn't get affected by orange power, and then I also want to find out how is Liam gonna remember her, because he has to, right? He has to. And also if we find Ruby's grandma. There's a lot of untethered ends that we need to figure out. Please like this video if you liked it, click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Caitlin, thanks for watching. Bye.